Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show, powered by Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services.
This show focuses on sharing good news and powering the good in our community. Now here's your host, cityCURRENT CEO, Jeremy Park.
Welcome to the cityCURRENT Show, powered by Higginbotham. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we always love having our cityCURRENT speakers come on the show. And that's why you are in for a literal knockout with Cam F. Awesome. He's a boxer, a speaker, an author, so much more. The most winningest boxer in USA boxing history. Cam, how are you doing, buddy?
With your energy, man, I'm doing great. I love that. Can you just come everywhere and introduce me?
Yes, I would be happy and honored to do that. I mean, so you spoke at our cityCURRENT Signature Speaker Series here in Memphis, hosted by ProTech Services Group. Absolutely amazing when you look at your story, the takeaways. I mean, you got a standing ovation. It was absolutely awesome. We'll talk about that because I want to share a little bit of a recap there, but let's start with how you frame your story, because a lot of adversity, perseverance, obviously big wins and triumphs, but also 2 losses and, the mindset around that. So for you as a speaker, for you as just a person, how do you, in a short way, kind of frame your background to give people an idea of your story?
Well, I frame my story by framing my story. So what I speak about is literally how we tell our stories and how we think about ourselves. And we all tell ourselves stories, whether it's we're good at this or we're bad at technology or we're not a morning person. And when I like to help an audience figure out which character they play in the story they tell themselves and how they can rewrite the script to make the life they want to achieve possible.
One of the things that really stood out is the self-talk. And, you and I had some long conversations while you were in Memphis and even before we hit record around just being athletes and the power of mindset, of what you tell yourself, just like you said, and the story you tell yourself. And for tennis players, positive body language versus negative. Give a little bit of that insight, and it ties even to how you name yourself, Cam F. Awesome. So
Yeah.
Give a little bit of that storyline on the mental side and the power of self-talk.
Jeremy, as a tennis player, when it's like one-on-one competition, you get to see the person in their eyes. You can see their weak moments. You can see their moments of frustration. And I'm sure, because you're such a high-level tennis player, when you would see a player get frustrated, it's almost like a little crack in their armor, and you can dig into that. Now, if you're against a mentally weak opponent, you can crack that open and get them to fall apart and forget what they learned. And so many times in the boxing ring, I got an opponent to where the point they were frustrated and they mentally broke. And I call that conquering a man's soul. It's an involuntary sigh they release in the ring. It's that moment of frustration. It's that moment of them giving up. And what I've learned is if you can fail without being discouraged, success becomes inevitable. If you can get yourself to fail, fall short, and not hate yourself or be mad at yourself or tell yourself the story that you're a loser. If you can tell yourself that even after a loss, that you're amazing, that you're worthy, that you're talented, that maybe this time wasn't your go, but next time will be, it allows you to continue on longer. And really, Jeremy, in life, what we need as people is hope. It's how we find it. We find it in community. We find it in the music we listen to. We find it in the people we spend time with. And finding reasons for hope and reason not to give up is the reason I exist.
One of the things that you brought up is you're like, hey, audience, so which boxer would you choose? The one with 100 matches or the one with like 3? And everybody's like, I want the more experienced 100. And you're like, I didn't tell you the record of the boxer. And so I thought, but I mean, that was like pretty cool when you talk about just the power of, though, experience, self-talk, and not being discouraged when you fail, because that is part of the process of how you learn and grow. And the only way it's a true failure is if you don't learn and grow. So carry that a little bit forward on that side.
Yeah. So the example with the boxer with 100 matches versus boxer with 3 matches, you choose the boxer with 100 matches, whether you know their record or not. They could be 5 wins and 95 losses, but the power experience is so powerful that it allows you to transcend your current value. It's like if you lose, if you fall short over and over, you get lessons from each of those. And things changed for me when I started to see failure as a filter and not as the outcome.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you are featured, you're a subject of the documentary Counterpunch. And one of the cool things is it follows a little bit of your career and you get to see just, staying in hotels and a lot of travel and what that's like and the training. But one of the other cool things is you see that you are really like a student of the game and asking a lot of questions and figuring out like, okay, the scoring system, the training, why are we doing this versus this? Talk a little about that side of it, which I think is really cool for you being a true student of the game and asking a lot of questions and not being afraid to ask a lot of questions.
Yeah, well, luckily, I would say my coach offered me the psychological safety to ask questions because honestly, questions could sometimes be annoying. But I think when you ask questions that have been asked before, that's where innovation comes from. It's from questioning things. It's like that's why it's important to have every generation working on a project because someone who's 70 will see a completely different perspective than the 19-year-old who just left high school. And they can offer different views. And for me, what I learned in boxing in my journey is to get as much different views from different people as possible. So I never had a standard coach. I'd travel around the country, I'd meet with a coach, I'd learn what they know. I'd throw 99% of it away. And I keep the 1% that works for me. And that is how I've kind of gathered my experience. But it's like I've always asked, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because one thing we don't realize is a lot of things we do because the person before us did it. And the person before us did it because the person before them did it. And the person before them did it before them. But what happens if the first person to ever do something was dumb? Like dumb people used to exist. Check your Facebook feed. They're still out here. Okay. So what I've learned is tradition stunts growth. And if you're looking for innovation, you have to ask questions that you already know the answer to.
Yeah, so in the keynote, you talked about even like the speed bag. You talked about learning from one of the Cuban fighters and how they were fighting, or one of the different fighters and the style. And you're like, I can take that because wow, that's effective over here, and that puts you on a winning streak. And so, really cool stuff that was a powerful takeaway from your presentation. Let's go ahead and dive in because you are obviously a speaker, and so you travel all over the world doing these keynotes, and so. We had you in Memphis. Give us a little bit of a recap for your experience in Memphis being the keynote speaker for our signature speaker series.
Oh, well, first of all, Napa Cafe, delicious. It was great to meet with the ProTech team, and Sean was a blast, by the way. That was a great experience. And then meeting in the morning, I understood what you did, and it was explained to me, and I looked, and of course I did my research and looked online. But to get into the room and see all those people there with for just the power of good, to see what they can offer. Everyone was just asking, hey, what can I help you with? And it was almost a circle of reciprocity. Like everyone was trying to help everyone. And it was like, what a way to start your Friday morning, man. You've built an amazing thing there with an amazing group of people.
Give us, we've kind of been talking about it throughout a little bit, but give us one special takeaway when for you as a keynote speaker. Obviously, all the things that we talked about, we want people to book you as a speaker, but it's like, give us one kind of fun takeaway that you talked about during your time in Memphis.
Oh, I would say so. One is less of what I spoke about, but there was a guy, Garen, and are you familiar with Garen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Garen Haddad.
Mhm.
I met him at a speaking engagement about a month ago in Vegas, and he told me about cityCURRENT. I'm like, hey, I'll be speaking at cityCURRENT in a month, and we had this talk because I used to live in Kansas City, and he's a Memphis guy, and we know the barbecue beef, and we had just a short conversation about barbecue versus Kansas City versus Memphis. I told him I was vegan, but my favorite condiment was barbecue sauce. And he came out and brought me his favorite barbecue sauce and a dry rub. And it's weird for as much as that means to me because it was just a little, he thought about me. And it was like, it wasn't a big thing, probably to him, but to me, it was such a huge deal. And going through security, they made me throw away the barbecue sauce. So I took a picture of it when he gave me the barbecue sauce. I took a picture at the airport when TSA made me throw it away. And I swear to you, the second we walked out of TSA, there was just a giant shelf of that same exact barbecue sauce. So I bought it right there. And the first meal I got when I came home was I made this Korean barbecue, the steak barbecue bowl. And I sent a picture to Garrett. I'm like, hey man, I appreciate you. Thank you. Uh, but it's those small things to let people know you appreciate them. And it goes so far, man.
That's awesome. I wondered when you got, I was like, I wonder if they're going to let him through that with that. So
They did
that's
not.
hilarious.
I sometimes you got to shoot shots. Some TSA pre-check, I make it through with big toothpaste and water bottle. I sneak in there sometimes, but they caught me this time.
That's awesome. And I think it was Rendezvous, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah.
there you
It's in my
go.
fridge now.
That's awesome. So the other cool thing for you is comedy, and you do stand-up comedy, but you also too use it as a give back, and you work with a lot of nonprofits, and you also kind of you weave even this corporate speaking in with going in and speaking to kids and schools. And so I love kind of the philanthropic side of who you are and what you do, but touch on comedy because I think this is a really cool curveball.
Yeah, I've always loved stand-up comedy. I wanted to be a stand-up comic. I fell into boxing, and I would go back to schools to talk about bullying. And because I was trying to be efficient, I would spend the last 5 minutes of my 45-minute talk trying out my open mic jokes. And the students loved the last 5 minutes more than the first 40. So I eventually developed a presentation style where my entire it's all jokes, storytelling jokes. They all have morals and messages attached to it. And when I made the transition from youth to corporate, I wasn't sure if that would work because I like comedy, and if something's not entertaining, I'm not really going to pay attention. And I realized that adults are just children with the ability to drive. Like we all just love to be entertained and be engaged. So that's the kind of style I try to take in the corporate speaking world. I still do stand up comedy. It's why I moved to Austin, Texas, to pursue comedy full time, and I found a great way to give back by doing comedy shows for charity. And a lot of times I reach out to a bar, they take the alcohol, I get the door, and I donate 100% to the door to the charity of choice. Uh, I'm doing one in Nashville in October for Switch for Good. It's a dietary nonprofit for children. And I found it as a great way to, because music's always great, but comedy's a great way to get people laughing, get them together, and all for a good cause. And
So I know comedians always hate the question, like, give us a joke, but like, do you have a go-to favorite, especially for the kids? Like when you look at kind of that side of it, is there one that pops into your head immediately as just kind of a fun joke?
So it's more of storytelling jokes. So none of it will make sense completely out of context. But I do give everyone a hard time. I think growing up when everyone you just joke around as an athlete, even before phones, you're bored. So you just sit around and you make jokes with each other. And I try to bring that same vibe of sitting around with friends making jokes on stage, but I attach a message to the end of it. Because if I think if people are laughing, they're listening. If they're listening, they're learning. If they're learning, I did my job.
Yeah. And to your point, like humor is such a great way to get people engaged and to help them learn and to also bring the community together, which speaking of community, you've had a chance to travel all over the world. And so when you talk about community, communication, culture, and being immersed in different cultures, that also is a part of what you talk about to corporate groups. And that's also a big part of your experience. Give us a little bit of that side of just traveling the world and seeing different cultures and learning how to communicate.
Yeah, I was a captain of Team USA for over 10 years. And my job was basically we go to other countries as number one boxer in the US, we'd go to other countries and fight their number one boxers. And my job was as captain was to find the do's and don'ts about each country and culture and relay the message to my teammates so we don't look like idiots in other countries. Rarely has it worked. I've put my foot in my mouth in over 30 countries, and I've learned almost everything you should do and not do. Just from small cultural cues to some cultures, you don't look elders in their eyes, to some cultures, you don't tip. Like I gave a tip in a country and I almost got into something about it. So I've learned so many different ways to communicate through cultures. And now I talk about cultural communication in the workplace because just something as simple as someone throwing away an old container in the employee fridge. So I'm Trinidadian. We don't necessarily give gifts, we give food. So every container is a vessel which love was passed around. So when someone passes away, we keep that container. It might look old and red from tomato sauce and stuff, but there's sentimental value to that because you connect that person's life with that container that they gave you so many good memories from. So when someone throws it away in the office, you're like, why did that person get so mad? It's an old container. It's like, oh, each culture has different values attached to things. So I help companies understand cultural communication a little bit better in a real fun way, because it could be a word topic.
Touch on too, when you talk about just helping people understand boxing, right? Like, I think for many, you might have seen it on TV, but you don't really necessarily understand. So talk about boxing as a sport, and give us kind of a little bit of, for those who don't know boxing, like what would you want them to understand about the sport?
Oh, what I would want someone to understand about the sport of boxing. The first thing is being tough doesn't make you a great boxer. Rocky had nothing to do with boxing. The more you get punched, the stronger you get is a completely wrong statement. The idea of boxing is to hit and don't be hit. And that's what made me so successful in it. And it is a lot safer than most sports, for one. And the second thing is, I love when parents put their kids in boxing. I joined the boxing gym. It wasn't to compete or spar, get in the ring. But what happens is when you go into the gym, and first of all, you're around fighters, you're around tough people, you absorb that. You absorb that resilience. And you understand the threshold for war output is a lot higher. And when you're able to do difficult things voluntarily, the difficult things you have to do become so much easier. And if you can train a child to be disciplined enough to do their workouts and show up to the gym on time, just like in tennis, you were doing tennis before school, right? So when you grow up and you just have to show up to work, you're like, oh, I don't have to practice for 2 hours before I do the thing. Life becomes easier when you do difficult things. The second value of that is, let's say little Jeremy is dealing with bullying. So you take little Jeremy to the boxing gym. Little Jeremy's jumping rope, he's doing jumping jacks. He has nothing to do with fighting, but the other kids know that little Jeremy is a boxer now. And like, oh, don't mess with Jeremy, he's a fighter. Little Jeremy starts walking around like he's a fighter. And it's that confidence that allows you to get into doors in life. And I believe boxing is great for confidence. And personally, I couldn't make a team growing up. I wasn't very athletic. Everyone makes the boxing team.
This is good stuff. I mean, this is one of those, you and I could go on forever. Wrap up with, we'll touch on the contact information in just a second, but you are constantly putting out good information like this on social media. Give us a little bit of your personal purpose. Like, in other words, for you at this stage of your life, what drives you?
What drives me? So I did a lot of self-talk to realize I actually deserve the things that I wanted. And I see so many people in my life that they're so capable, they're so amazing, they're so gifted, but they don't see it in themselves. And I believe potential is a location that you'll never reach. It's just always a little bit further. And I don't think we rise to our potential, we fall to our internal dialogue. So I want to help people uncover the greatest version of themselves, to believe in themselves, to celebrate themselves, and to be okay with being okay. And also be okay with not being okay. To accept yourself in all ways and fashions. And to me, if I can help someone just uncover 1% of who they are, then my mission is accomplished.
That's amazing. Well, wrap up with contact information. You're online, you're on social media. So where do we go to carry these conversations forward, to see all the amazing content you put out? Where do we go to book you as a speaker, a comedian? Where do we go?
You can find me at camfawesome.com and at camfawesome on all social media platforms, because I'm not famous enough for anyone to try to take my name.
Well, Cam F. Awesome. You were awesome. You were amazing. It was a knockout indeed having you in Memphis, and look forward to getting you out to Nashville and other cities very soon, buddy. So thank you for all you do to power the good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeremy.
Higginbotham Insurance and Financial Services is proud to power the cityCURRENT Show. We're a people-first company that protects what matters most, the families, businesses, and trailblazers that keep our community going. As one of the nation's top independent insurance firms, Higginbotham is a single-source solution for business insurance, employee benefits, HR services, and personal insurance that's customized for you. We're here to serve you, the people you care about, and your community. Call 866-377-1959 or visit higginbotham.com.